So let's be honest. Heartbreak hurts even when nobody knows your name. But when you are a public figure, when you are somebody whose personal life becomes public fodder, when strangers are dissecting your every move, when they have an opinion about your decisions and cast judgments from behind their screens, the wounds can cut extremely deep. A recent Pew Research Center study found that 41% of American adults, that's 4 in 10, have experienced some form of online harassment. And for those in the public eye or people who are even just connected to a public figure, that scrutiny can explode into a tidal wave of gossip, misinformation, and relentless criticism. Now, here's the problem. We were never designed to process pain under a microscope. Healing is a sacred, private journey. But sometimes God allows our private struggles to spill into public view, not to shame us, but to shape us. Today, we're going to talk about what it takes to heal when the whole world seems to be watching. Because while your pain might be public, your healing belongs to you and to God alone. Hey y'all, real quick, I want to make sure that you know that if you enjoy my content, if you enjoy this podcast, if you even enjoy what I share on social media or in my e-newsletters, you need to become part of my Patreon community. My Patreon community is an exclusive community that will give you access to even more content that I make available publicly. You'll get early access to my podcasts on at least a monthly basis. I'm hosting a live Q&A to recap the conversations that I'm having, and you can join at different membership tiers depending on your budget, all right? So I want you to consider joining my Patreon community because I would love to connect with you in a deeper way. All right, now back to the conversation because it's going to be good. Listen, y'all, I am so excited about my guest today. This is a woman who has had to navigate some really intense moments of public scrutiny, but she has done it with grace. She's done it with maturity, and she has done it with restraint. She's a mother. She's an advocate, y'all. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she's also an influencer whose personal journey has played out in the glare of public attention. She found herself thrust into some headlines that she never even asked for, facing opinions that she never even invited. But beyond the gossip, this girl, who is not just my guest, she's also my friend. She is a woman of faith. She is a woman of wisdom and a woman of resilience who is choosing to write a new chapter, not as a headline, but as a healed, whole woman. And today, she's going to open up her story to help others navigate the same terrain. I need to introduce to some, but present to many. My girl, Samantha Lee. How you doing, Sam?
What's up, Nona? I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little nervous, but I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Girl, you don't ever have to be nervous with me because first of all, let me tell you, Sam and I have had so many conversations. I feel like whenever we get on the phone, like we might be like, oh, let me just ask you something real quick. And then like 2 hours later, it's like, oh, girl, I guess I better go to bed. So it's always such a joy to connect with you and really just have a conversation, I think, for people that will be edifying, that frankly has been edifying to me in private. So I want to, before we even get into like present life and lessons and all of that, I would love for you to just take us back. Who was Samantha Lee before you became a public figure? Like, what was your origin story?
So I joke about this all the time, but I'm a mixed girl from New Jersey. You and I know, Jersey, that's how we bonded.
Yep.
Jersey strong. But I'm a mixed girl from New Jersey. And like right before everything kind of went public with my marriage and things like that, I was finishing up grad school. I was a grad student at the University of Georgia, and I finished and started my first career post grad, and as a licensed social worker. So that's what I was doing. I was I've worked in all different areas of social work. But I really would say, like, I come from a home of, divorced parents. There was a lot that happened in my childhood, a lot of back and forth, there's a high conflict type of situation with my parents. And I to tell you, I feel like I've been through a whole lot, but that's the short story, is that I'm a mixed girl from New Jersey and somehow found her way to these social media streets.
Well, I feel like you've lived so many years of your life in the public eye. And before we even get into like lessons and all of that, what did you think it was going to be like to be in the public eye, and what was it actually like in comparison to what you thought it would be?
So I really didn't think I would ever actually be in the public eye. So that was number one. When I first started the relationship, it was very private. In fact, we didn't go public till 3 months after we were married. So no one knew we dated or anything. So I was under the impression that we would try to live, we were going to attempt to live this relationship privately, but it became very hard to do so for myself, for my family, because I felt very isolated. And so then we went public. And I guess in my mind, I mean, you have thoughts about what that would be like, is we being recognized or things like, I didn't know, I actually didn't know what to anticipate. But what it became was not what I expected at all. So it was not what I expected at all.
So what's funny is you just said, I didn't have any expectations, but what it became was not what I expected. So let's just say, looking back, knowing now what happened and all of that, what do you think your expectations were? Like, did you think that things were just going to stay the same and it's no big deal? Like, what do you think that was?
To be honest with you, Nona, I was a 20, let's be real, I was like a 26, 27-year-old girl. And so I'm thinking to myself, like when I had conversations, I was like, oh, we're always going to be a secret. Like, that's really what I thought. We're going to try to be a secret for as long as possible. And so I knew that my life did change privately. It dramatically changed. But I really was like under the impression when I started this relationship that it was going to be private for the majority, for as long as we possibly could be. So us going public as quickly as we did was actually a surprise. It was a surprise, but it was it almost felt like we needed to do it because of the fact that I was always around. It was going to be very hard to like hide this person that's always there and is clearly like wearing a ring and things like that. Like he could always take off his ring. Like it was just not, it wasn't feasible to maintain the secrecy that we had at marriage and post-marriage. And so when I thought about being public, I thought it was going to be, I mean, I guess you think about the good things about it. Like, at the time, what I was prayerful about was that I wouldn't have to live in secrecy. It was very hard for me to live privately where I couldn't tell my family anything. Like I was afraid something was going to go out, and you're living like very limited in that way. So I was excited for the freedom to be open, but I don't think I understood the cost of being open. So there was a freedom about it that I hadn't existed prior to, but yeah.
What? So we're going to talk about the cost in a moment, but what you're saying actually triggered a memory for me. I remember seeing a post one time, and it was like a debate, and this person who is very famous, has like, I don't know, 15 million followers or something, was asking people, so what do you think about keeping a relationship private, keeping it secret? Like, what do you think? Is that something that you think is a good thing? You think it's a bad thing? And I was reading through the comments, and it was actually really interesting to see people's perspectives. From your perspective, since the thinking was, oh, this is going to be private, what did you think the benefit of that was? I'm curious to get into that psychology.
I think I really feel like, I mean, I think that there was a huge benefits to us being private because there wasn't the perspective and the opinions. I believe that we are to cover each other. In relationships, we are to cover. It's very hard to get to know somebody and really understand them. They understand you. And then you invite a whole other, group of people that have nothing to do with your day to day, that have perspectives about who you are, what you look like, what you look like this in this picture. You don't even look like you like him, or you don't even look like you like it. You have all these different perspectives of people that you now invite in, and the relationship is no longer covered. Now it's fodder for people that are bored, and to be real, I probably would have, if knowing what I know now, I probably would have wanted to be private longer, because of the fact that our relationship did go very fast. I met him and I was married to him in 5.5 months. So it was a very,
Girl. Yeah. Yeah. That was quick. Oh gosh.
What you gonna say? Go ahead, girl. Say what you gonna say.
No. You good. I was like,
okay.
no, you're fine, girl. And then you said, and then y'all went public 3 months later. So it wasn't even a year of being together. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So we were public within, I would say, I remember that day too. Like, I remember like it was yesterday, but it was like, I've been in July. I think we're public in March. So I don't know how many months that is, but it's like,
yeah.
No, what? That's
about 8.
September, October, November, December.
Yeah,
January,
that's 8 months.
8 months. 8 months. We were public, and I get we had to do it, but it was. I don't think it was what he expected. It wasn't what I expected. I was looking more forward to, at that point, freedom, because at that time we had to move in such a way to protect the fact that I was with him, and so I was looking forward and I was excited for this freedom, but it wasn't freedom at all. It became more like, yes, we could move out loud, but now you're inviting a whole lot of other perspectives and opinions. And if you're not strong in who you are and what you have, it can absolutely shatter the framework, the foundation of which you're building.
Yeah, as you're talking, I feel a level of sympathy for celebrities who try to have a relationship, because, and it's funny because when I first saw the person's post, I remember thinking, well, of course I'd want to make it public. Like, why would I hide something? But as I'm listening to you, I can see, like, really when you're in that level of scrutiny, and I understand it too, because in ministry, I see it all the time with like pastors, right? Pastors and first ladies, and you get a platform, you get a stage, and now people have opinions about things that they wouldn't even welcome an opinion for themselves on, right? It's like, oh, I can't believe she wore that today, and the way that he looked at her was kind of, they must have something going on, and so now you're in a defensive posture where you're basically trying to defend why the relationship is good or healthy, which you didn't have to do before. And so let's fast forward a little bit. So, you get married, everything's like, now you're public, opinions are coming in, scrutiny's coming in, and you get to the point where, for whatever reason, you're like, okay, I think this isn't going to work. Now, were you able to keep that private for a while, or did that all play out in public too?
No, I kept that private. We kept that private for a while.
Okay.
We didn't say what was happening until the divorce was filed, and we were certain we were moving in different directions.
Okay. So at what point, and this is where I think I want to invite everybody who's watching and listening to this, because we've all been there, but at what point did you realize, okay, my private pain is about to become public? And then how did you feel? Like, you've already navigated some of the scrutiny about just being married at all, but now we're about to enter a whole other phase. How did you feel about, as a wife, as a mom, as a believer, how did you feel as you were kind of noticing, okay, this is about to become public?
There's two things I want to say first. Like, one thing I will say about just when I went public, I never thought about, and people don't think about this, they want the attention of public and everybody knowing you and all this other stuff. But they don't understand that it also comes with opinions. It also comes with perspectives. It also comes with, you know, people that love what you're doing, people that hate what you're doing. You're inviting so much energy, spiritual energy that are not everybody. In fact, most people are probably not wishing or praying the best over you. It's probably a fraction or the minority that actually wants to see a relationship work, especially today. So that, I always say, keep it private for as long as you possibly can to protect what you're building. Until it's like the foundation is built and set, then if you decide to go public, go public. But I think it's very superficial, and I don't look at it as a healthy thing to do, to just go public with your relationship as soon as you're in one. Like, I think you should be private. Celebrities, everybody, I tell this to anybody that I'm get in contact with. Until it's set in stone, keep it private. Keep it between you and that person, just to protect the relationship that you're building. But I would say on the aftermath, it wasn't until I knew we put out we had to put out a statement, and when we put out the statement, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I mean, I thought that the statement was going to be what it is, and that I was prayerful that would be it. But it wasn't it. It was far from over from there. Because I really just wanted to privately handle the matters. That was what I decided. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. I tried to keep everything to myself throughout the entire process, even though everything was playing out loud. I tried to still I tried to stay silent about my personal grievances, whatever I was dealing with. I feel like a wife covers, and I don't, even if I'm in the situation where somebody else may not feel that same sentiment towards me, I still felt the spiritual responsibility as a wife, as a believer, to handle things the way the Bible had called me to do so, and to cover him, even if he wasn't covering me.
Wow. I can only imagine, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation, because very, very, very few people have had to navigate something like this, where you're in pain, right? You are in pain. And everybody has an opinion about what you should do, shouldn't do, what you're not doing enough of, what you should have done, did this. And it's just, it gets to a place where it can be almost like demoralizing. What during that season, and we'll get to, more present day, but what during that season, the initial stages, helped anchor you? Was it a scripture? Was it a book? Was it a devotional? Was it just an internal knowing? What helped anchor you as this was starting to ramp up?
It was a conviction. I hold tightly to Romans 12. And I've said it on multiple platforms, but Romans 12, 17 through 21, where it says, "Do not seek revenge, instead leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay.' When your enemy's hungry, you feed them. When they're thirsty, you give them something to drink. And doing this, you heap burning coals on your head. You do not overcome evil by doing evil. You overcome evil by doing good." And I held on to that because I really felt very strongly that God didn't want me to defend. God didn't want me to accuse. God didn't want me to retaliate. God wanted me to really hold my peace and release it to him. And my faith, my convictions are what grounded me through the process.
Hey, listen, I'm inserting myself in this conversation for just a minute, because if you're enjoying this conversation and if you enjoy the many conversations that I host through my podcast, I want to invite you to join me for my free virtual masterclass, How to Bounce Back Better. My mission in life is to help you and people like you discover the power within you to not just go through stuff, not just survive, but I want you to learn how to grow through stuff, how to thrive. How to Bounce Back Better is an hour-long virtual masterclass, and I offer multiple sessions every single week. If you want to register, all you have to do is head over to nonajones.com, and you will see a big link, a big button that says free masterclass. Just click the button and you can sign up today. I want to see you in the next masterclass, because I promise you there are tools, tactics, strategies, and tips that have helped me build resilience that I want to give to you. So again, head over to nonajones.com to click the big free masterclass button and get signed up today. All right, now back to the conversation.
So what do you think? I mean, we've seen a number of public figures who have navigated divorce publicly, heartbreak publicly, scandals publicly, all this stuff. What do you think is maybe something that people get wrong or misunderstand about public figures while they're navigating trauma and heartbreak in the public eye? And especially if you, you may not want to do this, but if you could tell your haters anything to help them understand, yeah, what would that be? What do people misunderstand and get wrong?
I think that people misunderstand that celebrities are humans. We're human beings and we're processing things the best we know how. And it may not be what everybody can make sense of. It may not be the best way, but we are human beings living life out loud. And yes, that's a responsibility that we've signed up for, but it does not shortchange the fact that we are human. And I think that a lot of times because some people that are out here are, you know, they're known or they've got money or they've got status, it's like they makes them less human because of the accolades or the financial or the zeros behind in their bank account. It makes them less of a human being or how many followers they have. That doesn't change the fact that you're human and you're going through something and you're trying to navigate it and it's painful. And of course, we would like things to be private. I would always suggest to anybody watching me, you handle your matters privately. People that are watching do not care about, I mean, not all, and I can't say everybody, because some people actually do care about how you feel and what you're going through and what you're experiencing. But a lot of times they're utilizing that, especially on a social media platform, they're utilizing that for entertainment. They're not utilizing that for actual, like, I'm invested in you doing well. I'm just entertained by your life and what's happening. And I want to share my perspective because it gives me 35 seconds or 30 seconds into someone else's life that distracts me from my own. I don't think people have an understanding of that people are navigating life. And unfortunately, instead of you being able to do things privately and move around and figure things out privately, this person, based upon what they've been able to build for themselves or however they found their way to a light, whatever light that is, they're having to do this and figure this out loud. And that doesn't always come with a roadmap. I had no idea how this journey was going to go and what would happen on this journey. And so I navigated it the best way I knew how. Obviously, I can look back and say that there's things I could have done differently or, you know, whatever, but we're all just human. Like, truly, we're human beings trying to figure it out every day, doing the best that we can. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we're human.
I think that is such a powerful reminder, Sam, because you're right. It's so sad to me. And I've had several friends, whether, you know, they're famous in, you know, an industry or they're just well known in ministry. I've actually had several friends that have had to navigate scandals of all types. And because I know them, right, because I actually have a front row seat to their life off of social media, when I see how people attack them on social media, it grieves my heart because of what you just said, which is this is a human being who is literally doing the best that they can. Did they mess up? Absolutely. Did they? In some cases, they didn't make a mistake. They intentionally were doing some things in private that they had no business doing. Do they need to be held accountable for that? Absolutely. And it should not become our entertainment. And I think that's the line that gets crossed, is where it's something that we just gossip about and we laugh about. And it's like, man, like this person's pain becomes our punchline. I feel like that's the line that gets crossed. And so I thank you for that reminder. And I hope that anyone who's watching this, anyone who's even listening to this, who maybe there is a scandal that you're aware of, or there's a divorce or something that's happening and you've just been keeping tabs on it as almost like an escape, right? To be like, oh, let me see what's happening over here. There's human beings on the other side of that. And so I think that's a really important reminder for us. Speaking of that, I'm curious, what boundaries have you put up when it comes to social media? Because it feels like social media gives people this artificial sense of proximity to somebody. And so they almost feel like they can have an opinion because they know you, just because they follow you and they watch your content. So what boundaries have you put up as it relates to social media so that you can protect yourself during your healing journey?
I had to learn the hard way, Nona, honestly, to keep myself from being on social media. So there was a lot more engagement that I had with social media in the beginning of this process. And I took a lot of perspectives personally, even though no one knew what I was facing, why I made decisions. No one knew. I felt very much convicted to keep that to myself. And I still have kept that 5 years later. I don't feel like it's anyone's business. No matter what's being said about me and no matter who it's being said by, I still felt a very strong conviction to keep what's mine and to cover, even if I'm not being covered, right? So with that being said, I had to learn the hard way, and I feel like God is using this at this point in my life to break me out of the need to get people's approval for what I say or what I don't say. Like, I'm not as afraid to be canceled. I'm not afraid for people to disagree with me. I think a lot of people tiptoe on, oh, do they like me, not like me? There's been times people have had things to say about me. I had nothing to do, most of the time, had nothing to do with where the firestorm originated. It wasn't something I did. It wasn't something it happened. It was overnight something occurred. And now I find myself feeling the need to defend myself against people who don't know me. And the people that do know me and know the situation aren't saying anything to me. But the people that don't know the situation, that are just watching this play out, they have all the perspectives in the world based upon what they're seeing on social media, not having a conversation with me, not knowing what's going on. So I had to really, really, really learn how to take things with a grain of salt. Because at the end of the day, there were things I could learn from the process. There was things that I could, okay, I can see that, or whatever the case may be, especially for my future. There's things that I can definitely learn from some of the decisions I've made. However, I also had to understand nobody is walking in my shoes. Nobody knows anything or where anything came from. No one knows. I've kept that private. And that was intentional. And I felt like me taking people's perceptions when they don't know everything, or they don't know they don't know, but was unwise, because they don't know. They genuinely do. They're going off of what they've seen on a 30-second clip or a headline. Some people aren't even watching the clips, aren't even understanding, or somebody's clickbaiting things and putting it together to make it sound like I said something I didn't say. Like, I had to learn the hard way that you can't take, like, God's opinion of you is what matters. If you're going to walk heavy, if you're going to step into purpose, if you're going to create content that is meaningful, if you're going to make an impact on this world, you cannot be a friend of the world. And so I had to learn the hard way that it doesn't matter what they say. Does it still affect me from time to time? Of course it does. I am a human being. But at the end of the day, what God says about me means to me so much more. It weighs so much more than what people think, because people, especially from a social media perspective, are incredibly limited. I don't share everything. I'm out there, but I've learned the balance of being private and public at the same time. And I think that's a wise balance to have.
I totally agree. And you mentioned something that made me think. You talked about how there were people who basically had an opinion. They were very vocal about their opinion, who didn't know you. But then there were people who knew you who didn't say anything to you.
Yes.
What is it like, or how did you navigate? Because I can imagine there are people who are watching this who they're in their own season of heartbreak, whatever that is. And maybe they have, people that they thought were friends who have disappeared, like who just aren't there. How did you navigate that? And what did that look like for you? And what the bigger question, I think, is how could a friend best show up for you when you're walking through something like that?
It's a good question. I love that question. I'm going to say that one for the last part. But when you're going through any type of heartbreak or family falling apart, you do have to anticipate the fallout of people. You do. And for me, that was probably one of the most challenging things I had to face. Just people that maybe was speaking to me every day and just all of a sudden just don't want anything to do with me, or people that even in churches, even in spiritual arenas where I've experienced levels of betrayal as well, like just because of the nature of the situation. Like it was incredibly painful because sometimes you don't find out who people are. You have a sermon that this is where I found you assigned and attached, and you find out the hard way who's assigned and who's attached. And those lessons are incredibly painful. But in that, I've grown so much more because you do start to have an understanding of who really is for you, who really is assigned to you. And you also develop a stronger relationship with your God, because sometimes you can get so dependent on the people around you that you lose sight of your relationship with God, and understanding that right there, that's your anchor. God, I don't care what the situation looks like. I don't care who is where saying this or saying that, who leaves, who comes. God was always there in my darkest moments when I'm sitting on a stand and I'm testifying in front of TMZ. I don't care what I was facing, wherever I would. God was in every single moment. And because of that relationship with him that grew because of betrayal, like, yes, the betrayal happened, the rejection happened, the abandonment happened, but I learned how faithful,
yes,
and I could cry, how faithful God is. In the midst of the storm, in the midst of the trial, in the midst of the heartbreak, he does mend the brokenhearted. He does do that. He does do those things. And so I think, yes, it's incredibly painful. People will fall out. You will find out the hard way who's attached and who's assigned, who's there for the right reasons, who's there for the wrong reasons. But in that, I've increased in discernment. I don't hold on to people like I used to. I hold on to God the way I used to hold on to people. And that really has helped me tremendously in navigating relationships. As far as the second question that you asked me that I really think is a great one, how do you support somebody going through something like this? And I think some of the best people in my circle and in my world was just reassuring me of who they knew I was and how they knew, like the people that knew what was going on and what was happening, reassuring me and continuing to speak scripture over me. Now, there's scripture like no weapon formed will prosper. Now, in this season, it feel like this thing is prospering. Okay, I feel
like look, this weapon is forming, and boy, it's prospering.
Let me tell you something. If I could tell somebody that's in the beginning of this situation and it didn't. The weapon did not prosper in a season, and it did, but it taught me something about people and my need to be validated by people, my need to get affirmation from people, that I was waiting for the applause of people or trying to get people to understand me. I'm trying to get they to get on the same page with me and see my perspective. And I'm like, who is they? Who is they? At the end of the day, while I'm sitting here and I might be in my bathroom crying, or I'm going through whatever I'm going through, what really matters are the people that know me, know what I was going through, what I was dealing with, how I was dealing with it. They know my character. They can speak to it. So to stop giving weight to people that literally know very little, if anything, about you, and to put that same weight into people that do know you, that rock with you, that you know are assigned to your journey, giving them my ear, giving them my perspective, because whoever has your ear has your future. And if I'm continuing to listen to people that do not have my best interest in mind, or are just reading a headline and they're making a decision about me, whether they had a conversation or not, you're not my people. And that's okay. I'm cool with that. Before, I wanted to get you to become my people. Now I'm like, you don't have to be my people. Whoever God has as my people will be my people. No matter, I remember my pastor said this and it really, really resonated with me. He says, a person's perspective of you won't change based upon like rumors or anything like that. If they're assigned to you. If they're assigned to you, God will not allow the perspectives of them to change because they're assigned to you. He said specifically, he will not allow those perceptions to change in the minds of those who matter. He will restore, he will keep your reputation intact to those who matter to your destiny and your purpose. And that is true. That if people's minds changed about me because they saw something or they heard something, but they don't know me, then at the end of the day, you're not my people, and that's okay. I'm cool with that now, but I had to get better with that. And this is what that taught me.
Girl, when I tell you, I so resonate with everything you're saying. And that's why when you talked about the attached versus assigned, that came out of the sermon, The Gift of Rejection, which I wrote a book about. But I had to walk through rejection that used to take me out, like used to have me like, what's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Nobody wants me. Nobody loves me. And I would internalize it and it would silence me. It would make me small. But what you said is so powerful about the fact that like, look, why are we submitting our purpose and our identity to the opinions of people who, number one, don't even know us? Like, God is for us. And I was thinking, as you were speaking, I was thinking about 2 Timothy chapter 4. I want to read just a part of it to everybody. So Paul is in prison. He's writing to Timothy, and he says to him, at my first defense, when he goes up and he's basically like, hey, I didn't do anything here. But he says, at my first defense, no one came to my support. Everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. Why? The Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and all the Gentiles might hear it. And I was delivered from the lion's mouth. What Paul is saying is, listen, when I needed y'all the most, everybody disappeared. But guess what I found out? I found out that you weren't who I needed. I found out in that season of abandonment. I found out in that season of rejection. I found out when everybody had something to say about me who didn't even know who I was, that it was God who stood by my side. And my purpose was not invalidated or disqualified just because you decided not to show up for me. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful is I kind of watch the season that you're in now is I can see how God is truly being true to his word, giving you beauty for ashes. Like he's building a ministry. He's built a testimony. He's built a passion because it comes out of an awareness. Like this isn't something you just heard about. Like you haven't heard what it's like to trust God when everything falls apart. It's like, no. I know. I know what it's like to literally only have the Lord.
That's right.
By my side.
That's right. No,
and that's what's blessing me.
It's like when Job, where he says, I've heard of you, but now I've seen you. I've seen you, and my conviction is different when I see you. I've heard how good you are, but now I have seen you. So my conviction is completely different now. Yes.
I want to, as we're going to close, I want to close on this question because I think it's really important. There are people, and I sense this in my spirit, especially. That's why I was so excited about this conversation. I believe that there are people, men, women watching this conversation who are walking through a season of quote unquote being canceled, right? Whether it's in their family, whether it's on their job, it could even be on social media, it could be in their business, whatever it is. But they're experiencing a tremendous amount of rejection. And the question I have for you is, if you were able to just share one thought that you feel like, man, if I knew then what I know now, what would you want them to know about the possibility of healing and wholeness, even when everything feels like it's falling apart?
What I've learned about the times where God has isolated me from supports and people that I thought were there or not there, or maybe they were distant for a period of time. Because I can think of one moment specifically here recently where I had somebody distance themselves and I was like, what is this? Like, what happened here? And I remember there was a moment where I was talking to God and he said, that's why. Because I think a lot of times we don't realize like everything is spiritual. Everything that we face is spiritual. If we're dealing with attacks, if we're dealing with opposition, if we're dealing with resistance, it is intentional. There is something spiritually that you are to get from this specific situation. So one of the first things I would say is it's all spiritual, and God is is using this moment of isolation to prepare you. He uses wilderness seasons, isolates you from everything that you know, so that you understand in a different kind of way, with a different kind of conviction, that God is faithful, that God does restore, that God does heal, that God does deliver, that God, when you start to have an understanding and you see God, a lot of times when he isolates us from people or isolates us from the things that we have once found our security, our identity, all these things, we found those things in, he rips us from those things for us to find our identity, our true identity, the reason why he's created us. Those are the moments where we find out exactly what we were created to do and who we were created to be. Because a lot of times we were raised to be things, we were taught to be things, we were conditioned to be things. And God does these seasons to break us from conditioning and to reintroduce ourselves to the intended version of ourselves. So what I would say is, do not allow this season to make you feel like, oh, woe is me. Where is God? God's like, no, I'm still here. You're equating my faithfulness to people's faithfulness. My character and their character are completely different. I'm still here. I've never, ever left you. I've never forsaken you. And so I want you guys to know that when I stopped looking around to see who is and who isn't there, and I started focusing on the one that has always been there, and every single trial and every single situation I've ever been through, when everybody was talking about me, when I didn't have a voice to defend myself, when he always was there. He has never left my side. And because of that relationship that I have with my Creator, because I've seen how faithful he has been, because I understand my true identity in him, I'm not shaken by who leaves and who stays. I'm not shaken by the situations, the shifting shadows, the situations that we will inevitably go through in this life. I have learned very, very quickly in this season of my life that God had used these situations to isolate me from the variables, for me to lock into who he is, what he's doing, and who I'm supposed to be on this planet, and not allow the fear of man or the fear of man's opinions to stop me, to hinder me from unapologetically chasing who God has called me to be.
Whew, and I think the church can say amen. Girl, listen to me. That was in and of itself an absolute sermon. And I really, truly hope that everyone watching this who is walking through a season of rejection, public shame, public scandal. Everybody has an opinion. All of a sudden, people aren't taking your calls anymore, not responding to your texts anymore. Like you just said, having somebody suddenly start to pull back and you're wondering what is wrong with me. We have to realize that, number one, God is a jealous God.
Yes.
And so anything that has our heart more than he does is an immediate target for removal.
Girl.
And sometimes we take it personally because we're just like, well, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? And God's saying, it's not something that you did. It's what you are idolizing. And I love you too much to let you make this friendship, this job, this relationship, this thing an idol. Sam, I cannot thank you enough for your transparency, your vulnerability, your wisdom, your passion, your grace. I know this has not been an easy season for you, but the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you is because I really think that it's important for people to know that God is with you. Like when it feels like everybody's walked away, when it feels like everything you counted on has fallen apart, God is still with you. And you said it so, so beautifully. I want to give everybody this verse, and you referenced it a little bit earlier, but as we go, it's Psalm 34, verse 18. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." So I want everybody to know, even when your pain becomes public, God's presence remains private. He is with you. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. And I pray that this conversation has been a comfort to you. If nobody has told you this, please know God loves you, and so do I. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening and maybe even watching this episode of The Nona Jones Show. If you enjoyed this conversation, I want to encourage you to become a member of my Patreon community. You see, on Patreon, you're not only going to get full-length episodes of my podcast, but you will also get early access to any new content that I share, including new podcast episodes, sermons, even behind-the-scenes clips of my travels. And depending on the tier at which you join, you will also be invited to some live Q&A conversations that I have with my Patreon community. So what I want you to do is head over to patreon.com/Nona Not Nora to get signed up today. I want to see you in my community. Thanks for being here.